Food is fuel for your body, your mind, and definitely your sport. But let's face it, nutrition is confusing, and the expectations on girls and women to be thin and have a six-pack are exhausting. If you've ever been frustrated with your body, confused about nutrition, obsessed with eating healthy, or guilty when you don't, underate, overate, or overtrained, and overwhelmed with all the pressure, then this podcast is for you. Nutrition can be easy. You can take control of it, but it might start with letting go of control by asking for help and making a change. I'm Lindsay Elizabeth Cortez, sports dietitian and owner of Rise Up Nutrition, where I empower female athletes to overcome nutrition concerns and perform at their highest level, to stop being confused by all the mixed or harmful messages, and finally have confidence in your body as a fierce, fit, and fueled female athlete. All right. Hi, fans. Welcome back to an episode of the Female Athlete Nutrition Podcast. I'm here with a wonderful guest today, Meiyan Mullin, who I actually haven't caught up with in a while. Our lives crossed paths a couple of years ago when we were both starting our businesses around the same time. So we have that in common, but I just love her mission and what she does. And I think we're going to dig into a lot of stuff on this podcast. So here's her little bio just to pump you guys up. Meiyan is your soul alignment guide and is here to help you live a more magical life. She is a yoga teacher, therapeutic touch practitioner, aromatherapy educator, and healer. Meiyan's mission is to support women in stepping out from whatever has been keeping them small and oppressed in any way to living their most satisfying life. She specifically helps women shift out of gray area drinking and into their truth, love, and power. So Meiyan, thank you so much for coming on this podcast and having this conversation.
That's so nice to hear someone say that back to me like that. I'm like, hey, that sounds pretty awesome.
That's good. It means that you really have a passion for what you do. If you can hear it back and be like, yes.
That is it. It's kind of big, but it's kind of very specific as well, right?
It is. That's what I love about you as a coach and as a business owner too, is okay, you have this aspect of helping people step away from drinking, but you go so much bigger than that. You're like, I am your soul alignment coach. And I love that.
Because for so many women like myself who used alcohol for many years, it's so acceptable and even you're even told to have the drink, and it's all of that around that. And so you kind of are no one wants to label themselves being an alcoholic or whatever. We're all just regular women doing what everybody else is doing, having our wine in the evening and maybe drinking the whole bottle or overdoing it on the weekends. It's all just so normal and acceptable. And initially it all works, right? It works. It takes away the stress and the edges and all the things. But when a woman finally wakes up to the fact that she's actually overdoing it, it's a weird place to be, right? Admitting some of that and some of the labels that go along with all that. And so that's why I really love gray area drinking, to realize that anyone who drinks alcohol is on a spectrum. So where on this spectrum of using a toxic substance, because that's what it is. Any other drug, alcohol is a drug, right? So where on the spectrum are you? And when you realize you've crossed your line, right? And everyone kind of has their own inner line and you know it, and no one might be saying anything to you oh, don't you think you're drinking too much? Or, oh, do you have a problem? None of those conversations could be going on in your outer world. And yet, inside of you that you don't feel good about it, right? But the social pressures and norms and the fact that, the first drink works, right? It does, it numbs your brain and takes the stress momentarily, right? So it's a big deal for a lot of women that are waking up to this reality. And there's this massive movement going on right now. I don't know if some of your listeners, I think it's kind of hard to miss now, this wellness trend of being sober curious, right? Sober curious wellness trend, all the women that are writing books now about it. And it's just it's a movement. It's truly this, just being alcohol free is now becoming more and more of a movement, especially for younger people. It's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, nice. Because I think maybe some stigmas, or I don't know if this is just me personally, but the term sobriety I'm just going to be blunt. It sounds boring.
And I don't even use it. I personally I'm alcohol free, and I have been for 8 years.
Because stepping into this movement of wellness, it is much more like, yes, I want to take care of myself, take care of my body, versus that like sobriety is kind of, yeah. So I think you're alcohol free.
Put all the labels.
Yeah.
Just like some people are, I don't know, dairy free, gluten free, cigarette free. I'm just alcohol free. And it just is what it is now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love, one of my big questions for you was to describe gray area drinking, which I think you already did, unless you want to expand on it more. But I love already how you expressed it's your line. That really was a light bulb for me as you were talking. I was like, yeah, it's not about, is 2 drinks too much, or is it when you're drunk, it's too much? It's your line.
Yeah. Everyone has their own, beautiful inner GPS, right? We know when something doesn't feel good for us when it comes to anything, right? Like, it, especially when it comes to your body will always tell you, I don't feel good, that hurt, this, something's not right, whatever it is, that's your signal right there. That is your signal right there. And so to honor your body, right? And honor what truly works for you and doesn't work for you, what feels good and doesn't feel good. And for women, it's one of the most, I would say, challenging levels of growth as we, mature, is owning, this ourselves, right? Holding on to ourselves, regardless of what anybody else is doing or saying or telling or whatever you're being marketed to, or, it's like, you can't compare yourself to anyone else, right? Only you know what's right for you, because it's an inner game, right?
Yeah, for sure. So would you be willing then, Meiyan, to share a bit more about your journey with alcohol? You're now alcohol free for, I think you said 8 years.
Yeah. Crazy, right? Yeah.
And like the decision to do that.
Yep. So after, like, I started drinking like a lot of people in my teens, and then it just kept on going. And over time, what was always like this social thing, then when I kind of got into my 30s, it became like I'm like a full-on adult now. I can just like pick up a bottle at Target with my groceries, because that's when I lived in the States, actually. And like, I can just drink on a Tuesday night because I want to, by myself at home, because it's like takes away whatever is going on, right? It's just like, and it just keeps, kind of snowballing. And this is usually when most women wake up, is the mid 30s, and they realize, holy shit, I'm kind of overdoing it. I think like I'm drinking more than I planned. I'm drinking more nights than it becomes just a almost daily thing, right? And you start to be like, oh, okay, well then how about I take a couple weeks off, because I've recognized, so I'll just take a week off or whatever. And you maybe go 2-3 days and you're right back at it. And that was the first time, I think I was around 35. I was like, hey, wait a second, what just happened there? That wasn't the plan. I wanted to consciously take a few weeks off, because I could tell it was really starting to, like, all the things, right? You just feel gross, you look gross, all the things. And I couldn't. And I kind of kept trying over a couple of years, and it was like, what the hell? I couldn't even put a week together.
Wow.
So I realized it had its hooks in me. And so I still didn't know, though, why. Like, why is this an issue for me? Why can't I just have one? Like, that was the plan. I would go out maybe socially or something like that, dinner, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm only going to have one. So you start to play all these mental gymnastics around trying to manage. It's the same with, I think, for a lot of women with food, right? All the mental gymnastics and the space that it's taking up in your mind to try to manage this thing that's got its hooks into you. And so it wasn't until I got pregnant that I finally took,
9 months, hopefully.
Right? Yeah. Some months off. Well, actually, I miscarried twice. So there was that going through some of that, right? So I had time off, and then I would start again because I wasn't pregnant anymore. And then all of that roller coaster but what a gift it was to go through those pregnancies, because it was like forced, and yes, sobriety, right? So I could do it for my baby, but I couldn't do it for me. And so actually, when my son, who's now 10, and I'm so excited to hear that you just had a baby. Oh my
Yes,
God.
thank you.
So when my son he was a toddler, somewhere around 16, 18 months, I had this like a lightning bolt moment. It was profound. It was so profound. And he was a toddler, so he came toddling in and and literally the day before, I had it was a Saturday, and through the course of the day, I'd been gardening and this and that, and I'd probably had 3 or 4 glasses of wine throughout the whole day, right? So honestly, like nothing's really nothing was really, I wasn't drunk or anything like that. But so the next morning, you're slightly foggy, you're not 100% because you drank alcohol the day before, right? But it wasn't anything, major. But my toddler came in full of life, full of love, full of like literally everything magical you could ever imagine, because those first 4 years are so special. And it literally was a lightning bolt that like fucking zapped me, to be quite honest. And I sat up and it was like, I blurted out, I'm never drinking again.
To your 16th month old.
Yeah. Dramatic. It was dramatic. And that was it. And I grabbed my journal and I just would like writing like I'd never written, like shit that I'd never written before. And it was like, that was it. It was like I had this truly an awakening moment. Like just, I got goosebumps right now. And that was it. But then, oh, fuck. Speaking it out was like, holy moly, I had to do so much work on myself to actually keep it out, because at the end of the day, alcohol's not the problem. We're using it for many reasons, and you have to realize why you're using it, and you have to heal those things and get new skills in place and learn and transform a bunch of stuff so that you can become a person who actually doesn't even want or need alcohol ever. Like you could literally give or take it, like a lot of people in this world, because they don't have all those deeper reasons lurking underneath that I literally didn't know were there until I removed the booze. And then everything became crystal clear why I had been, leaning into it, overdoing it sometimes, it's my little story.
Wow. I love it. And I think, for me personally, just talking to you right now is really interesting because of me just having a little baby as well. So I went the whole pregnancy without alcohol. And it was funny because I noticed during that time, even though I had a bunch of other health stuff going on and, heartburn and sleepless nights, I did notice that, especially second trimester, which is when a lot of women feel a lot of energy anyways. But I was like, I'm noticing the difference when I wake up without alcohol compared to pre-pregnancy. And as an athlete, I never drank much anyways, but then, and I don't know if other athletes might resonate with this. Definitely my college athletes that are listening, I know will. It's like, okay, we don't drink because we're focusing on our sport and our athletics. But then when we do drink, we have like 4 drinks or something that then you wake up the next morning, you really don't feel good. And that, I think, I'll just be transparent on this podcast with that's probably me. And alcohol is like, because of athletics and sport, I don't drink it much. But then when I do, I probably have 1 too many, and you wake up and you don't feel good. And so I had that realization during pregnancy of wow, I feel better. And I had the thought too of maybe I'll keep this up. But I've had drinks post pregnancy, and it was something. I'm breastfeeding too, so I'm still cautious with how much and sleep. I'm not getting much sleep, so that's another motivator for me of like, I'm not going to have a drink because I want to wake up with energy. But it's an interesting thought, it's an interesting thought for me personally to reflect on as you're talking, and especially about like, just with when your story was with having a kid too. And I'm like, these 4 years are so special when they're little. And man,
I know.
You got me thinking.
I know. I couldn't do it for myself, but I could do anything for my kid. And because of my upbringing, recognizing, what was there with my dad, who amazing, loving, wonderful man. But he would come home from work every day and, have some drinks, right? And on the weekends, he would have a few more. So, and knowing that disconnection, because the truth is when anybody drinks, they go into their own little, foggy, hazy bubble, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Our brain gets all mushy and, that's the truth, right?
It is.
Alcohol is a neurotoxin and it is carcinogen, right? So it's a cancer causing agent and it's also damages your brain, like every single drink. And just to interject, in 2020, finally, so literally like a year and a half ago, the biggest cancer agency in the world, which I think is the North American Cancer Institute or something like that. I think it's based in the US. They have changed the guidelines for what is healthy alcohol consumption. And for men and women, it's 0. Because
wow,
even one glass of wine raises your risk of breast cancer in a woman by 15%. So even one drink raises 7 different cancers. So there literally is 0 health benefits and it's just pure negative now. So, but it took a long time for the science to catch up with all of that. And I'm sure you can imagine why. Big alcohol, just like big tobacco, is a very powerful entity. And they don't want you to know that even one drink, just like one cigarette, is actually very harmful for your body. So once you know that and you start to, all the social situations and, everything that we get marketed to, you just start to see it for what it is. And you can start to step away, just like cigarettes back in the, the 70s when all of that kind of came out and everyone was like, oh, so let's all quit smoking, right? Like I don't even know anybody who smokes. I mean, I know people do, but.
I know, but it's something in my lifetime. It's, I feel like since kindergarten, it was like, say no to smoke, say no to cigarettes. And it's really,
that's where alcohol is going because of this big movement. And now literally the guidelines, the science, everything is now out there. That's where it's going. And they think it's going to take 10 to 15 years for most of the population to actually accept it and come to terms with that and make the lifestyle shifts, right? So
yeah, I have a couple comments that I want to make on these topics. But the first one is just when you were saying like there's 0 health benefits. And I know some people are probably listening thinking, but resveratrol, aren't there antioxidants and stuff like that? And it's like, but you can just eat grapes and you can eat cherries and you can get your antioxidants in that way. And then
there's the juice. You don't need to have the alcohol, which is ethanol, technically ethanol, which is the same substance that goes into cars. It's ethanol. It's poison. Like it really is. Yeah. So I know this is a good one. I know it's hard to swallow.
It's hard.
A wine snob. I was a total wine snob. I love the glamour of it all, the everything about it, the ritual, the look, the this, the that. But again, it's all a fantasy that you've been sold.
So I want to ask you kind of a weird question. So like, as you are now, or maybe as you were going through this, like that fantasy of like the wine glass and the, fancy drink and all that, like, do you still participate in that with a seltzer water, or are you just like, no, that's a fantasy? I don't even try to live up that, like.
Of course I still like have fancy dinners and love going out and socializing and all those things. And I'm just drinking something else. Like I know, because I've been on every stage of this, right? From being completely on the other side of the fence to now being here. And there are 1 million, if not 10 million other things you could drink in a glass that taste so delicious and look lovely and all the things. And you can still do everything that you were doing before, having fun, going to a party, dancing on tables, and yet you're drinking, I don't know, fucking kombucha or cranberry juice or whatever you want. Like drink a pop. Even a pop is better than alcohol when it comes to your body, your health, your cells, your being. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is another point that I want to kind of talk through, because I very much with nutrition take the approach and philosophy that all foods can fit.
Yeah.
And yes, and one of my reasons for that, just to make this clear for listeners, is because you do not survive without food. So even to the extent of the Cheetos and Twinkies, which we can have debates about, but it's like at the end of the day, they are still providing your body with energy and calories, and you do not survive without energy and calories. So therefore, all food can be good. I'm not saying you should eat Cheetos and Twinkies all day, every day, but it's like, it's still in some ways, your body can't survive without that, without food. And so all food can fit, but this is where alcohol actually is different.
It's a drug.
It's a drug. And it even, I want to break this down for my listeners too. When we talk about macronutrients, we have carbohydrates, proteins, and fats that make up your energy and your calories. Alcohol is its own category. Even from a calorie standpoint, like we get 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate, 4 calories per gram of protein. We get 9 calories per gram of fats. Alcohol is its own thing. You get 7 calories per gram of alcohol. Like it's metabolized totally differently. It's its own category. And here's the biggest difference. You do not need alcohol to survive. You do need protein. You do need carbs. You do need fats to survive.
Yeah.
But you do not need alcohol to survive. And so this is the interesting thing. Although I am very much an all foods fit and all drinks can fit and things like that, but it's like, but you don't need alcohol at all. So that's something I just wanted to express to our listeners, is that it, to back up your science that you're saying of like zero health, there are 0 drinks that would be healthy because you don't actually need it to survive at all.
Well, and literally 1 drink is hurting your organs. It's damaging your brain, like the alcohol. Yeah. So, but then, if you love the taste of beer or certain other drinks, there are so many alcohol-free versions. So for some people, that's the pathway. That's the bridge that they take. All these alcohol-free beers and even alcohol-free spirits, and some wines are like literally alcohol-free, or they're like 0.0 something, just like orange juice, right? There's certain foods actually have a little bit of, it's like 0.0 something of alcohol in it, believe it or not. And so, yeah, you can have all these alcohol-free drinks if you want. Some people, like I said, that is the bridge that they take and have means, so they can still just, they feel like they don't have to say anything to anyone. No one's going to question anything. And they just don't even have to like go there. It's just like, yeah, no, I'm just doing what's right for my body and what's right for my and my heart by not drinking alcohol anymore. Right. So, because I feel better every single time I don't.
Okay, fans, I'm going to pause this conversation to let you ladies know about the Rise Up Nutrition Coaching Program. We have a lot of ways that we can help clients here at Rise Up Nutrition, and this is one of 2 amazing opportunities to get the direct help you need. With our team of sports dietitians, this program helps adult female athletes fuel to perform without strict dieting. Ah, how good does that sound? Finally, you will understand nutrition for day-to-day training, eat intuitively with foods that you love, and be race day or competition day ready with energy and confidence. We have more details about what's included and how we can help on our website, riseupnutritionrun.com/group coaching. Links are in the show notes. But I quickly want to share what a few of our clients have said about their experiences in this program so far. Sophie, a trail runner, says, quote, I really encourage anyone who has struggled with eating and lives an active lifestyle to consider this program, because it's so hard to know if you're fueling properly without someone on the outside looking in from an objective point of view. I now feel confident in my food choices, and more than anything, confident that I can actually eat more and that it will only benefit my health and my training. Sarah, another one of our clients and triathlete, says, quote, for anyone that is struggling with diet culture, a history of disordered eating, and is trying to learn how to eat and fuel, this is a program they should strongly consider. I've been active my whole life, and trying to fit a mainstream diet has never worked. In fact, it's created more problems than good. Working with Rise Up Nutrition has made things very simple. So again, if you are an adult female athlete that wants to perform better without strict dieting, click that link in our show notes to apply to the Rise Up Nutrition Coaching Program, and we would be thrilled to have you join us. Until then, we will get back to the conversation. I want to talk about something else that I think I tuned in to a couple of your Instagram lives recently. Do a great job at doing that on your Instagram page and connecting with your followers and everything. But I was listening to one where you were explaining like your programs and services. So if anybody, wants to work with you and what it actually looks like. And one of the lines that you said in there is like, we don't even talk about alcohol in my programs.
We don't. Because when you're not doing it, there's actually nothing to talk about. Yeah. So I'm not a sober coach because again, I don't know. Once you make the decision and you know it in your heart that it's only actually hurting you and hindering you in all the ways, you decide to just put it to the back burner or put it to the side and never worry about for how long that needs to be, right? Forever doesn't exist. Okay. So just for now, if you want to try life without it, because you want to see how good you can actually feel and function, and even how I would say even more deeply you can start loving yourself and all of your people, because that's a real thing, right? As soon as you drink, you get all fuzzy and you're disconnected, believe it or not. I know people are under this illusion that they're more social and they feel like they're more connected to their friends and people when they're having those drinks because it kind of numbs your brain and the inhibitions drop. But you're not. You're actually not making like deep loving connections with anyone, like actual intimacy, like real friendship and real like love connections when you're drinking. Now I'm going on a tangent. So we don't even talk about booze. Yeah. So when you decide to put it, to the sidelines and just like for now, you don't have to worry about for how long, just give it a go. We don't need to talk about the booze. We need to talk about why were you, let's say, overdoing it or using it too much in the first place, right? So I'm all about the healing and the growth. So do put alcohol away, and then you step back into your life and into your world and relationships and this and that. It might become really apparent that you've got some growing to do, like weak spots that, whether it comes to communication or just any sort of emotional issues, whether it's anxiety, anger, this, that, whatever. I like to get to the root of all of that with the women that I work with, again, so that they won't need to or want to use alcohol to deal with anything, because they're actually going to bring themselves to a place where they're just this confident, living from their heart, kind of powerful, balanced woman all on their own. And they know how to navigate every situation that they're in. And they don't need alcohol to escape or numb or pretend or fake it.
Yeah. And what you said earlier on this podcast of like, it's not even about the alcohol, it's about something else. And I know that with many of my clients that I work with, I can find the same thing if they're struggling with any form of disordered eating. And sometimes that includes the use of alcohol, or it includes, really controlling and restricting their food, or it includes, binging or purging and some, crazy things that we end up doing. And it's funny because it's not even about the food.
No. And about a third of the women I work with, once I dig in, it comes to be that they've had an eating disordered issue, right? So bulimia, whatever. And as soon as we get into the real depths of what's really behind all of this unhealthy behavior, right? Manipulating food or using alcohol, it's all just a coping strategy, right? All of it. They're just trying to cope to feel good, to manage how they're feeling about themselves. And I love that we're chatting because I've had it's not something that I have lived through, an eating disorder, but my very best friend growing up did. And I just never got it or understood it. And so now what an honor and what a privilege for all these women that I work with to get the gift of being able to feel into what's really behind it all and understand it. And then I can even, like, she's my very best friend from childhood. And so now I've been able to like put it all together and I get it so deeply. And it always seems to be like, it's this feeling. And I would love to hear what you have to say about this, of this pressure, right? There's just like this pressure cooker going on inside of them, right? And the expectations and the pressure and the external stories that are, that they've had to buy into. And it's just like, oh, I just think, and I hope this lands okay. I just think initially to develop an eating disorder is actually, on the one hand, just to start with, is actually quite brilliant. It's like finally something to release the pressure, to release anxiety, and and just like, just to like, let me just feel relaxed again in my body, right? But of course, that morphs into something that's obviously unhealthy. But
well, it's the same, right? What you're saying is exactly the same reason why people turn to alcohol, right? It's we're having trouble coping, and it gives you an initial relief.
Yes, it works.
And it works.
Always works. No one's gonna say it doesn't.
The first drink always works. No one's going to say it doesn't. In the same way that I think anybody who's struggling with eating is like that day that you manipulate your meal, or that moment that you purge, you feel good in that moment. Phew, I did it. I regained control. Everything's okay again. And then it's not the more it continues.
Because you actually didn't deal with the issue, right? You actually escaped it. You numbed out from it. So yeah. So we have to get in there and actually, do the healing around that, and then put the skills and everything in place so that you can fully manage it and like gracefully navigate these situations as you go through them, right? And a lot of it's just stories in the head, right? Lots of limiting beliefs and lies that people are holding on to, right? It's not even true. But you've been programmed that way, right? So a lot of the stuff I do with women has to do with their childhood and their upbringing, right? So how their parents, what was modeled for them and what they were told, and, the kind of energy and pressure and even abuse, right? Sometimes, right? Sometimes physical, mostly it's emotional. You don't even know, especially with emotional abuse, right? You don't even know it, whether it's criticisms or pressures. It's like, it's a form of abuse, right?
Even as an adult, I'm sure women going through your program, they don't know. They're probably not coming to you saying, I use alcohol because of my emotional abuse as a child. I'm sure that's something you kind of uncover with them.
For a lot of them. Yeah. Some of them are, we got some pretty savvy. There's so much information now, right? Especially on Instagram, right? I mean, that's where I kind of live. But so a lot of people's awareness is really expanding, and they're starting to really see and recognize. Dear God, I wish that was around when, because I quit 8 years ago, right? And there was nothing. Like, I wasn't even on social media, and there was no books, all this. So it's like, I had to like kind of really figure this all out on my own and come to that realization. Oh my God, I was emotionally neglected. Who knew? I didn't know. It's such a subtle and kind of weird kind of thing, like, because it's what didn't happen to me. And it actually really traumatized me. I didn't get my emotional needs met. And I'm a pretty sensitive person. And so we all have needs, right? We have physical needs, right? We need, shelter and clothing, and we got to get fed, but we have all these emotional needs, and they're just as important as the other needs. And when you don't get some of your needs met as a child, for some of us, it really hurts. But you don't know at the time.
Yeah, I'm just like, you just said something that I'm just like, I'm over here like pulling my hair out, because I'm like, wow, I just learned so much about, sometimes that trauma is what didn't happen to you. That I just had this huge light bulb go off, like for, yes, just a big, and like I've known that in the clients I work with, just like the journey my life has taken. But the way that you just phrased that was just really, really powerful, really powerful, that sometimes it's what didn't happen that can create some of these, limiting beliefs, false stories, low self-esteem, not getting the love that you needed.
Yeah. Like my parents, like they were there. I didn't even come from a broken home or anything like that. And there was no fighting, like nothing like that. I thought I had the perfect little, childhood. And that's often what a lot of women, I had this magical childhood. Everything was wonderful. My parents loved me and cared for me and spoiled me and done. It's like, okay, that's great. So let's figure out why then you're behaving the way you're behaving, because I know something's in there. So let's see what's in there and what's not in there and how it affected you. We're all so unique. Right? We're all so unique, and every person, and I'm thinking of you as a young mom, it's our job. It's our job with our children to really see them and feel into their needs. What does this child need from me? Right? How can I support this person the most? Right? But it was a different generation back then, right? I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So again, the awareness just wasn't there. The consciousness level, whatever you want to call it, just wasn't quite there, right? Yeah, well-intentioned. This is not intentional, by the way, especially emotional abuse, right? It's not intentional. Everyone's parent is doing the absolute best they can. No, absolute best. Everyone is doing their absolute best, including every woman who has ever struggled with food and this and drinking. You're all doing your best. I really believe that. We're all just coping, right? We're coping. And so everyone's got their own stuff and their own trauma and their own wounds and their own unmet needs. So they can only show up for you as best that they can, right?
You know what I really appreciate about you and just what I get from you and you as a person, your coaching and stuff. We're saying the word coping, but you're not somebody's like, here's your 5 coping strategies. And maybe you do give that, but you're more so somebody who's like, we need to step into who you were meant to be. Step into your true self. It's not just this perpetual cycle of coping over and over again, and that's fine. But you're like, okay, but how can we actually be I don't know if I'm just talking in circles, but like be real, be honest, be true, be yourself.
Right. So there's a very logical sequence, right? Depending, again, everyone's different. And so feeling into their unique kind of heart and their wounds and what they're really believing about themselves, right? So there's some, sometimes there's some root issues of just literally, especially when there's anxiety, a lot of anxiety. So deep down, you're not even feeling safe, right? Your own body and your own environment as a woman, right? So a lot of anxiety can come in. So that's some root stuff right there. But then we get into like self-esteem, right? Do I even feel like I'm enough? I have to know you're enough, right? You're doing your best. You're absolutely enough. And then there's the self-worth issue. Do I feel worthy? How many shame stories am I holding on to about myself? All lies, every one of them. Shame is a lie. So you have to then build up your self-worth again, which is your power. You just claim it. It's yours, right? And then we get to some heart healing, right? What kind of walls have you put around your heart because you've been hurt? So then we build walls, and then kind of we just move from there. And eventually we get to a place of needing to forgive ourselves or anyone else, right? We have to forgive to free ourselves, right? And ultimately, all of this journey, right, is, and this is going to sound so cliche, but it's so true because I've seen it again and again. It's coming home to, the truth of who you are and actually, truly loving exactly who you are, loving every bit of you, right? Because at your core, you are absolutely perfect. Right? You're a child of God, all of that beautiful stuff, right? There is, and you've always been doing your best. So coming home to a deep love for yourself, truly accepting and loving yourself, no matter what. And that's when you liberate yourself. And I've literally had a client lose 100 pounds.
Wow.
And we never once talked about weight or drinking. I didn't even know she wanted to lose weight. We never talked about it. And what happened? Boom, it all just fell off because she literally made the decision to do everything she could do to love herself.
To love herself again.
Do the forgiveness, do the whole, the whole path and just came home to that realization.
Right. Because when you don't love yourself, you don't take care of yourself.
you punish yourself.
Punish yourself. And that can take so many different forms, yeah, especially with food.
So when we truly love ourselves and we want to give to ourselves and nurture ourselves and do what's best for us, we don't abuse alcohol and we don't, manipulate our food. We start to just see food as nourishment and fuel. And it's a celebration. And we love it because, right, it just becomes this whole like love cycle.
Yes.
Well, and honestly, I have zero judgment. I mean, if you're one of those people that can literally just have one drink and you're not pulled to ever have more, there's some genetics going on here too, right? It can be a DNA ancestral stuff that you can have. So, but if you're one of those people that can just have one, you know what? There's so many toxins in our environment already. Just in food or our air or, our products or whatever. Is it the end of the world if you just have one? You know what? Like if you're not playing the mental games and you could take it or leave it and you just want to have one, hey. And for a man too, I have no judgment. If you're cool with it and you feel good and loved and all the one and you still feel good afterwards and during, wonderful. Wonderful.
And that's what I love about you, Meiyan, because I think, and I don't know if other people feel that way, like when talking to me as a dietitian, people get nervous, like, am I going to be judged? Is this dietitian going to judge me? And the answer is no, I will never judge you for what you eat. It's all about what do you want out of your relationship with food? And is it supporting living the life that you want? And it's the same thing, I think, when you meet people who don't drink alcohol, there's this little like, ooh, am I being judged because I do drink it or whatever? And it, right when we started this conversation,
I just know what's right for me. And until I go deep into knowing someone, like with my clients, then, or like my child or something like that, then I could actually stand there and say, actually, I kind of do know what's best for you because I know you. But if you don't really know someone and their past and their history and all their stuff, there's nothing to judge. So just love them and accept them instead, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And right in the beginning of the conversation too, you said like it's about where your line is. But I also again, sharing my story, like I do drink alcohol, but I love, you're so inspirational to me because it gets me thinking about my line. And there have absolutely been times that I've crossed my line. And so this makes me so much more aware, of what is my line? Where is it? Where do I want it to be? And it just gets me thinking so much more about my relationship with alcohol. And I think I know that this is helping everybody listening really take that deeper thinking too.
Have fun, I probably would, because I do love the taste of certain drinks. Like I love the way they taste. So there's a lot of like love and satisfaction involved, but I can never stop at one because that's just me, partly because of what I've been through and my genetics and It only took me 20 plus years to figure that out, but yeah.
But you did, but you figured it out and that's what matters. And look at you now, just thriving.
I swear to God, if I wouldn't have gone through those pregnancies and had my child, I don't know. Because I couldn't do it for me because what I found out once I quit is actually my self-esteem and self-worth were in the fucking toilet. And that's why I couldn't do it for me.
Yeah. You didn't value yourself enough at that time.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
But then, and I'm sure too, you're saying you did it for your son, but also, I'm just going through this right now. Your identity changes when you become a mother. And so, it's like you maybe started to value yourself differently.
Yeah.
Because of that too. Yeah. But yes, it's, yes, doing it for somebody else is wonderful, but doing it for yourself, but it means that you have to love yourself. So that's the first step is going through that whole
of holding on to myself and making a good decision for myself, regardless of what anyone else thinks or whatever stories I've bought into or whatever. But make no mistake, with alcohol, initially, if you're going to, I always like, the greatest test anyone can do is just decide, I'm going to take a month off. I'm going to go 30 days. I'm just going to set a little challenge for myself just to actually see, where do I really stand and what are the stories that come up, and just give yourself a 30-day thing, which if you can do that, you're gold, by the way, because I couldn't do a 30-day thing initially, because the truth is alcohol is a drug and it is an addictive drug. So there are hooks in your cells. So your mind might be like, I'm just going to take a little 30-day break, or even a 2-week break, or a 10-day break, or whatever little challenge you want to set up for yourself, and just give yourself the opportunity to observe yourself and witness yourself through this little challenge. And you might be surprised at the hooks that this drug actually has in your cells, because your cells, your body is going to be like, where's the booze? Where's the drug? Where's the, like, you kind of get this like, oh, what the hell's going on? So
Yeah.
stock your fridge. Anybody who initially is going to remove it, no matter what level you've been drinking to, no matter what level, I'm like, you just eat whatever you want for those first couple of weeks, because the cravings are legit. So if you've got actual cravings, like have some ice cream, have some cookie, like sugar, you're going to crave sugar. So it's okay for a couple weeks. If you're removing this drug, this addictive drug, there's a little period of, let's call it what it is. It's withdrawal, right? And you do have to, there's a little bit of a fight there, right? You have to focus and choose it for, a couple weeks. You'll get little urges all of a sudden, and that's your body just going like, give me the drug, because it isn't, right? So have something else that you can reach for, probably sugar.
Yeah. And again, I'll go back to that whole thing of, hey, sugar is still energy that your body lives off of, right? So yes. It is the better choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sugar is better than alcohol.
I really like how you were like with the whole like 30-day thing, because that's a very like diet culture-y thing too, of like 30 days like gluten-free or 30 days alcohol-free. But I love how you were phrasing it as like, this is a little experiment that you can observe for yourself.
Yeah.
I love that approach.
And learn and have a little journal. Like maybe you make 10 days. Hey, celebrate that you went 10 days. And then look afterwards at what and why and where was the pull that made you then have a drink again. And how many stories are going through your head? Is it like cluttering your mind with all the drama of like, oh God, I'm going to be at this party. And do I drink? Because they're going to be here and there'll be pressure, blah, blah, blah. Or is it just whatever, So just start to observe yourself and take a few little notes, like just journal kind of where you're at with it all. And then from there, you can make a decision on what feels best for you moving forward, right?
Yeah. Beautiful. I have to kind of take a pivot. I'm just interested in like I work with all girls and women, you work with all women. I don't know. Do you think that there's differences in, women's relationship with alcohol, or is it all the same and you just prefer to work with women, or is there there's some differences? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We're biologically different. And so alcohol really does affect women differently, right? And we have we're feminine beings, they're masculine beings. It's a whole different ball of wax, right? And it's a whole different, and yes, I'm generalizing, but it's just a complete different, I think, support and nurturing and healing and guidance out of it, because it is different. You can never, and I know a lot of women who are in partnerships and the men just don't get it because they don't get it because they're not women and they can have a couple of beers and it's just different for them. They process it differently. They have a different experience with it. It affects them in a different way. It's very different. We are two very different creatures.
Yeah, no, I see that for sure with the men in my life, just not only my husband, but, my brother-in-laws and stuff like that. It's like, they just have a different relationship with alcohol than myself and the women in my life. It is different. I'm not saying worse or better. I don't know, just different.
It's just different. Yeah, it's different. And you have to respect that and honor that. For women, we're feminine beings, we're emotional beings, we're hormonal beings, right? We're cyclical beings. All of those things are not, men don't have all that. So it really affects us differently and messes with all the hormonal, emotional, blah, 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 all the waves of all of that. It's just a different entity altogether.
Even just like the choice to have a drink or not too. It's like men, it's sometimes just this very much like come home from work, have a beer, versus women. It's like, it is this more emotional response or hormonal of it's that time of the month. And because of hormones, I'm more emotional and I feel like I'm struggling to cope. And so it's like, it's different reasons that we're even going for the drink in the first place.
Yeah.
And therefore would be different reasons for you to choose not to go for the drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
And different ways that drink is affecting you in your life and how you show up every day.
Mm-hmm. And I really, we need more women. We need more women in this world really stepping into their full power, right? Into their full purpose from a clear, healthy, high self-love, high self-worth type of energy, because that's what the world needs more of. To balance out, let's call it what it is, this shit show that is going on a lot of areas on this planet, because the masculine, yes, I'm going there, the masculine energy has taken over with their power and greed, and we need more women to be leading and fully embodying and bringing their best version of themselves, right? And so alcohol will always keep you small.
Yes. You're about to bring me to tears because I'm so empowered by everything that you're saying. And I agree. I just agree. Here I am, this feminine, emotional, hormonal being right now crying on this podcast because it's just the truth.
It's meaningful. It's a big deal. It might not seem like much, but it is a big deal. And it's exactly what this world, this planet we're on needs to balance out what's been going on for the last, let's say, 2,000 years. We need to bring harmony, balance, and it's going to take more women, right, in their power, living from their hearts, clear-minded, just bringing their unique talents and skills and gifts to the world, whether it's in a little, just your community or something bigger, or literally even just your family, right, with the way you're teaching and modeling for your own children, right? Like it's all needed and all incredibly important.
It is. So, wow, it has just been a pleasure talking to you and having you share this information and share your personal journey and really get people thinking.
Yeah.
A lot more. And I really hope I'm going to include information in the show notes about how people can follow you. But if you just want to say it verbally real quick, how can people find out more about you and follow your stuff or look into your coaching services?
Yeah. So my site is womenwillrise.ca because I'm in Canada, womenwillrise.ca. But yeah, I'm on Instagram's my main place, and it's just under my name, which is a tricky one, Meiyan Mullin, Meiyan.
Special name.
Yeah. Soul alignment guide. That is what I do.
Beautiful. Well, Meiyan, I always close out every podcast with a few fun questions. You ready to play along?
Yes.
If there is one food you could eat every single day for the rest of your life and never get sick of it, what would that be? Quick answer.
Pasta.
Beautiful.
In any form, any shape. Bring on the pasta.
Yeah, love it. Do you have a favorite sport or form of exercise to participate in yourself?
Oh, well, I am a yogi for sure. But I, believe it or not, in the past while, I started running for the first time in my life.
Wow.
I actually even started to like it.
Ooh. Well, as a runner myself, this is the amazing thing that happens. Everybody's like, I hate running, until you start running and you figure it out. You're like, I get why so many people do this now.
And as a business owner too, it's an asset, for me to run. It really helps me in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Amazing. How about as a spectator? Do you have a favorite sport that you like to watch?
Tennis.
Yeah.
Tennis.
It's a good one.
Nadal is a god.
All right. And then I know we didn't talk too much about like athletes specifically together, but this is my final question. If there is a female athlete, whether famous or in your personal life, that you just are inspired by, you think is a role model, who would that be and why?
A female athlete. That is such a good question. Athlete. I don't have TV. I didn't even watch the Olympics. Female athlete. Just give me a second. Female athlete. I'm a little removed from it, to be quite honest. But having said that, I know that the Canadians women hockey team just won gold there, and I did see some of the highlights. And so I'm just going to give a shout out to them. It's not a specific person, but I think it's pretty amazing how far those women have come through the years. Because I love hockey, because I grew up in Canada. Hockey's my fave in that way.
Totally.
And so to see the development of these women through the years, because they're just like, wow, it's serious hockey now. It's brilliant. Like they just won the gold. So I'll give them a little shout out.
Yes, I love that, to the Canadian women's hockey team. No, it's so true, because hockey is such a tough sport. It really is. And I love it. And then to see women step up and get out on the ice like
really
that.
Becoming like elite players, right? Like really incredible talent there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Phenomenal. Well, thanks for playing along. And again, thank you so much for having this conversation. It was just amazing.
So good. This was so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed that episode, and thanks for listening. But before I let you go, I have free resources that you can have access to right away, right now, so that you can start fueling your body as a fierce, fit, and fueled female athlete. First, I have your Red S recovery race. If you've ever wondered if you might be struggling with Red S, curious to learn more, or know you have Red S and are looking to recover fast, then you can head to www.riseupnutritionrun.com/RedS and download the Red S Recovery Race. See how you place and figure out the next steps to recovery. Plus, while there, I have a few other great resources for you, including 3 nutrition secrets that every elite athlete swears by, and access to our private Facebook community, Female Athlete Nutrition. So again, to gain access to all of this, head to riseupnutritionrun.com/RedS. That's /REDS. And you can gain access and get the help you need fast. Too many girls and women and female athletes struggle with nutrition, but you don't have to any longer. Become fierce, fit, and fueled. Links in the show notes, and I'll see you next time.